I love bootstrapping. If there's any startup that is listening to the podcast and is thinking, should I bootstrap? The answer is usually yes. And I know I shouldn't be saying that because I'm an investor, and if you're that good, I want to give you my money and take a share of your company. But as an entrepreneur, I'm a fan of bootstrapping. I think bootstrapping can almost always be done and be done really well. But again, since I've crossed to the dark side and I'm a VC, I'll stop encouraging. That was my one and only encouragement for startups to bootstrap.
Nice. I agree with you about the bootstrapping bit. So let's get some clarity on this. Bootstrap when, fundraise when? What is it? Do you have a kind of a rule of thumb or something helpful you can tell our audience members?
Yeah. So first of all, let me start by saying I'm doing a disservice to myself now as I start saying, because like I said, if you're an awesome startup, like I want a piece of you, and also I'm a little worried now because I'm afraid I'll be like as I'm leaving my house, I have to check my car because a lot of VCs are not going to be happy with what I say. But with all that being said, I mean, hopefully not a lot of people are watching this podcast, and then we're fine, right, David?
No, we want a lot of people to watch this podcast.
So, but I'm joking. Unfortunately, I know that's true. Unfortunately, I know you have too many people watching, and some of them are really, really excellent entrepreneurs. So, let's talk about bootstrapping for a couple of seconds. So, almost every startup can be bootstrapped. There's a small sliver maybe of the startups that cannot be bootstrapped, and those are the ones that either are manufacturing something, so you need to put a ton of capital when you're starting, or you're doing something so amazing that needs to be done so quickly, like so your Twitter, right? You're getting like 1 billion of users onboarding on your platform right away, and you need to grow so quickly, or else you won't make it, or else you'll lose the chance, right? So these two things don't really happen because nobody manufactures nowadays anything. We don't do that, and if we have to, we do manufacturing on demand, almost always. And then we should all be so lucky to invent the next Twitter. That's probably not the case with almost everybody watching. And everybody else can actually bootstrap, because if it was true when I was bootstrapping, it's more so 2024. You've got everything out there for free or super cheap, and everything is done on demand, right? So, David, you're pretty old. I think I'm older, but still, you remember servers, right? You remember we had like this piece of hardware that we had to buy. We had to go to a store and buy. That doesn't exist anymore. We do it on Amazon, which means we can pay like $1 and have a server and have users on it. And if we have more users, we pay a little more dollars. And if we charge them for the service, then we can scale as we grow. And again, there's almost no upfront cost in almost anything that we're doing. So almost anyone can bootstrap. Now, I'm going to skip the should you bootstrap because, like I said, I'm really getting into dangerous territory. But let's talk about the when, right? So let's talk about some because there is one misconception about bootstrapping where some bootstrappers incorrectly think, hey, let's start by bootstrapping and then raise funding later. That's almost always a bad idea. So if you're committed to bootstrapping, bootstrap. Just bootstrap. Bootstrap, by the way, and I'll say one last thing in favor of bootstrapping, and then I have to check because I'm really worried now about my personal safety. When you're selling the company and you have 50%, you're on the cap table, you have 50%. Number one, it's awesome, and number two, the outcome becomes an order of magnitude better, right? So every outcome that you see is an outcome. Typically, when you read about like this, even the numbers that I talked about, right? Usually, founders have 10%, right? Of that huge, it's still a very nice number, but out of that huge number, they have maybe 10%, sometimes less. Imagine having 50%, right? Imagine how different that makes an exit. But now I'm going to stop. Now let's talk about why starting as a bootstrap and changing is not a good idea. And this is an overlooked issue. And one thing startups should understand: VCs hate Bootstrap. They hate it. It's an number one. It's an animal that's unfamiliar to VCs, and VCs work by pattern matching. VCs look at something and say, "Have we seen this pattern before? Do we know what it looks like?" And there's almost no patterns where Bootstrap becomes this billion-dollar company. There are, but not a lot. And then if they are, they're not very famous, because why would the founder that owns 50% or 80%, be famous? They want to take their billion-dollar quietly, right? So VCs can't really look at a Bootstrap business and say, "Oh, wow, that reminds me of that." No. And then the second problem is, a Bootstrap business is very, very different than a venture-backed business. Number one, it's profitable. Venture-backed is never profitable. You're spending money, right? You want to grow. And Bootstrap sometimes grows slowly, which again, investors hate because they want to see rapid growth, right? It's scrappy. It has different culture. It's culture, again, based on profits and not growth. There's so many differences that investors look at it and say, like, we don't know what that is. We can't recognize it. So now that's not to say if you're a crazily profitable Bootstrap, you will get investment. I mean, call me first, right? Or call David first and call me second. Because why wouldn't we want to invest in this golden egg producing thing? But then I got to ask, like, why would you want my money? You've got your money, right? Why would you want anybody else's money? So being a Bootstrap and then raising money is probably not going to happen. And you should decide very early on, are you a venture business or are you a Bootstrap business? I'm not going to repeat the benefits. I'll just say, if you make that decision, make a decision and probably stick with it.